All right, thank you very much for joining our Commvault HyperScale X session as part of Virtual Connections. My name is Greg Bennett. I'm in our product marketing organization, specifically responsible for Commvault HyperScale X. And with me today is Pavan Badadala, who's the director of our product management team. And for the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to walk you through the HyperScale X solution. First is a follow-on to the opening session conducted by Brian Brockway. I know he showed this slide talking about our expanded portfolio, and I just want to highlight where we're going to be focusing this conversation here today. It's really on HyperScale X, and then as Brian alluded to, there's an element of Hedvig as well, because as you'll hear in this discussion, we've integrated the Hedvig file system into our HyperScale solution. From an agenda standpoint, I just want to spend a couple of minutes talking about why it's important to modernize your data protection solution. We'll give a brief overview of the HyperScale X solution, focusing a few minutes on the Hedvig component and the features that provides. Then we'll talk about some of the other features that make installation and deployment easier. And then Pavan will walk through a demonstration so you can see how a lot of this works and how it simplifies your life. In terms of why you should modernize your data protection strategy, I don't intend to go through all of the figures on this. You can read those just as easy as I can and repeat them. But the main thing I want to point out is that if you're still using a scale-up data protection solution like a data domain, you're probably finding yourself in a situation where you have a bunch of different data silos, you have mass data fragmentation throughout your organization. You're typically or always having to overbuy capacity up front as you try to anticipate what your future needs are. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you don't, which means you need to buy another appliance. Then when you buy that other appliance, it doesn't talk to the other one, so you have all these islands of data out there, and then your reward for doing all of this is that every 3 years you get to do an expensive forklift upgrade of that technology to support the latest and greatest. You also find yourself typically with limited or inability to migrate data to the cloud, at least easily. Sometimes you might need another solution to do that. And so basically, if you're finding yourself in this scale-up backup solution, it's really time to look for a different approach. And that's where Commvault can help you. So what do we offer? Well, HyperScale X is our follow-on to our existing HyperScale solution. And what it does is it integrates the Hedvig distributed storage technology with our industry-leading Commvault data protection software. And that allows us to deliver the most comprehensive integrated data management solution out there. Hopefully, many of you are familiar with our Hedvig solution. A year ago last week was when we announced our intention of acquiring them. And Commvault HyperScale X marks the first incorporation of the Hedvig technology into our broader Commvault portfolio. So we're very excited about that. And as we talk through some of these other remaining slides, we'll hit on the scale out, secure, and simplicity benefits of the solution. The biggest thing when we talk about HyperScale X technology is in terms of benefits is how it helps you accelerate your hybrid cloud adoption with an integrated solution, scale out solution that provides you high performance backup and recovery. And when we talk about that, we're referring to having automatic load balancing and enhanced RPO and RTO capabilities. And we'll walk through that here shortly. We have optimized scalability, which means we allow incremental storage growth in single nodes so that you can store up to 5 petabytes of data in a single deduplicated storage pool. And what that allows you to do is avoid some of the over provisioning things that we were talking about earlier, and it helps improve some of your backup and restore throughput. Additionally, we offer cost-optimized cloud data mobility. What does that mean? Well, it really means that we offer you the ability to easily backup, recover, and migrate data to, from, within, and between clouds, all using automated policies to make it simpler. Additionally, we support built-in resiliency with ransomware protection. And what that provides is it helps you improve your SLAs with intelligent load balancing. And from a redundancy or resiliency standpoint, it helps you maintain that data availability even in the event of concurrent or multiple hardware failures. Again, we'll talk in a little more detail about that later. From a ransomware standpoint, we're able to mitigate the impacts of ransomware by intelligently monitoring your system to detect those anomalies and then alerting users as appropriate so they can take the appropriate remediation action. lastly, we provide data reuse via integrated copy data management. And the key benefits there are that we allow you to provide instant recovery of your VMs, and we enable you to do disaster recovery testing of your replicas directly from the hardware itself, rather than having to copy that data to a destination hypervisor or a database instance or something along those lines. And the reason we're able to do that is because we support higher levels of SSD on the HyperScale X solution than on the previous solution. If you look at the HyperScale X from a technology stack perspective, there's really 4 key components: the OS, the hypervisor, the file system, and the data protection software. From the previous generation to the current generation, we're still using the same Red Hat operating system. From a hypervisor perspective, we have replaced RHV with KVM 2.12. From a scale-out file system perspective, as I mentioned already, that's the single biggest change, and that's the new file system as part of HyperScale X. And lastly, from a data protection software perspective, we enable you to take advantage and leverage the entire Commvault software portfolio, beginning with feature release 11.20 and forward. And Pavan will go into more details about some of the software options available with the solution. In terms of what's new, we've hit on this a little bit, but now I want to go into a little bit more details on it. As I mentioned, HyperScale X represents the first integration of that Hedvig technology into the Commvault portfolio, and what that gives us is enhanced resiliency, scalability, and agility. From a resiliency standpoint, we're using enhanced erasure coding 4+2, and that provides the smart data distribution across those 3 nodes to provide to ensure the right level of performance and efficiency. It also enables superior resiliency when you're talking about an expansion or failure scenario, and I'll walk through an example of that here shortly. From a scalability perspective, you still start with 3 nodes with HyperScale X, just like you did with the previous version of HyperScale, but the biggest difference is that now you can add capacity in individual nodes. So if you started off with a 3-node 2U cluster, you could add a single 1U node if you just needed a little bit of additional capacity. So it truly allows you that pay-as-you-grow capability, and it gives you the ability to mix and match those server nodes and capacities within a storage pool. And as I mentioned, you can still scale to thousands of nodes and support up to 5 petabytes of storage in a single deduplicated storage pool. Finally, in terms of agility, the tighter integration of the scale system with the Commvault software gives you more flexibility. And again, Pavan will talk a little bit more about some of the software options a little bit later in the presentation. So now what I want to do, I've mentioned that the scale-out file system provides greater performance and scalability and resiliency. And I just want to walk through a fairly simplistic example so you can see how this works. So what we're showing here is the initial 3-node cluster, and what we've got in those squares, we're calling them data fragments. If you're familiar with the Hedvig world, they will refer to those as containers, but it's different than Kubernetes or Docker, so don't think of it in that terms. Just think of it as data fragments that are striped across multiple nodes. And so when you start off, what you're seeing there is that everything is pretty uniform so that you can maximize performance and scalability. So what happens is when you go to add another node, you can see that the data moved from each of those first 3 nodes down to the 4th node. And importantly, the data physically moves, so it's no longer on those nodes 1, 2, and 3. That ensures that you maintain that level of performance and scalability. And then as you continue to build this out, that same principle holds. So as you add a 5th node and as you add a 6th node, you can see that all that data that initially started out in those first 3 nodes, it gets evenly distributed and intelligently distributed automatically across all of those 6 nodes. And the benefit that provides, again, is you get increased performance for each node because each node is performance optimized. You get enhanced scalability because you're able to add in single node increments. And then from a resiliency standpoint, it truly is N+1 resiliency. And as you add incremental nodes, the entire solution becomes more resilient as a whole. So it's a very elegant solution. When you speak of resiliency, I want to give just a very simplistic example again to highlight that. I mentioned earlier that one of the benefits of the distributed scale-out file system is it allows you to tolerate concurrent hardware failures. And what we see is that on a highly available system, the data is the most vulnerable during a recovery after a failure. And that's because you have the disks under heavy load, and that's increasing the chances of an additional failure. Well, what happens with Commvault HyperScale X is that we're able to maintain that data redundancy even when the cluster is in a degraded state. And as we mentioned, it can tolerate concurrent hardware failures. And so from a very simplistic example of how that looks and how that works, what we're showing here is that that last node, the 6th node, goes out. And so what happens is that data gets redistributed, much like it did when we were scaling up in the first place, or scaling out in the first place. That data gets redistributed amongst the existing nodes so that, again, you're always maximizing that performance, efficiency, scalability, and resiliency. And so before I turn it over to Pavan to walk through an example, I just want to end on this slide for me, talking about how not only have we improved the file system and the performance, resiliency, and scalability, but we've also made great strides in terms of making the deployment easier. After all, when you're looking at an appliance or a reference design, one of the benefits is the enhanced deployment capabilities. And so there's 3 key things that we did with HyperScale X to improve that deployment experience. First, we streamlined the installation experience using the HyperScale browser. And so what that means is we created a new deployment tool that allows you to jump right into the HTML installer without having to go through the command line interface. Next, we simplified the configuration process by automating the most popular config options for networking. So previously, that required numerous clicks to try to complete the bonding process, and now that can be done easily with a single click. Finally, we reduced the number of prerequisites for the installation process by removing the DNS requirements. And what that does, it helps eliminate the potential for human error. So all that sounds great, but what does it really mean and what does it look like? Well, at this point, I'll turn it over to Pavan to walk you through an actual demo of what this looks like and how easy it is.
Thank you, Greg, for the HyperScale X overview, Hedvig integration and its benefits. It's time to see HyperScale X in action. I'm now going to demonstrate HyperScale X installation and configuration of a 3-node cluster. You have racked and stacked the HyperScale nodes and made the network connections. That's a pretty standard process as with any rack server. Then download the HyperScale browser, which is a standalone tool from the Commvault store. Launch the tool, which will automatically discover the newly racked HyperScale nodes. Select the nodes for installation. The tool now is going to launch HyperScale Web Installer and enter the standard credentials to get into the installer. It's going to take you to a 3-step installation process. In the first of the 3-step installation process, select the network resiliency mode, pick active backup or aggregate network mode, and then enter the IP address for all the 3 nodes that are going to form the initial cluster. Follow to the second screen, enter the rest of the network settings such as default gateway, net mask, and optional DNS entries to register the nodes. Follow to the third and final screen, where you can register the HyperScale deployment to an existing COM server or install a new COM server right on the appliance, providing an integrated experience. Additional options to install COM server in a highly available mode are also presented here. Enter the COM server name and other information required to configure the COM server. Now that all the required inputs are entered, installer quickly configures the software. It takes less than an hour if you're configuring HyperScale as a brand new COM server, and less than 30 minutes if you're configuring HyperScale to point to an existing COM server. Once installer completes, it takes you to the command center to finish the configuration. Log into the command center and proceed to create a storage pool. Once you launch the storage pool creation page, assign a name to the storage pool. And as you can see here, the HyperScale nodes are pre-discovered, and select the HyperScale nodes, select the resiliency options, and create the storage pool. And that's it. HyperScale storage is now available for running backups. As you can see here, in a few simple steps, all driven by the GUI installer. We were able to install the HyperScale end-to-end in minutes. Once deployed, HyperScale is easily managed through the command center. What you see here is HyperScale dashboard view. I'm going to use this view as a showpad to demonstrate the key capabilities of HyperScale and how Command Center simplifies the management through its easy-to-use interface. At the top left-hand corner, you can monitor HyperScale deployments and the workloads protected by the solution. You can use Command Center to also install updates and upgrade HyperScale software periodically. And this process also covers operating system updates as well, simplifying the management of entire software stack end-to-end and staying up to date with all critical security fixes. At the bottom left-hand corner, you can monitor the HyperScale performance and usage metrics. Also, you can monitor health of the hardware components. If any hardware component must fail, Commvault support gets a notification automatically, and we're going to proactively reach out, trying to resolve and replace the part if needed. The bottom right-hand corner, you can monitor the space usage on HyperScale nodes. Predictive alerts using machine learning methods are built into the system to alert you when storage is predicted to be full in 30 days. The top right-hand corner, you can monitor jobs and events related to HyperScale infrastructure. If you're managing a large environment, do not be overwhelmed by the numerous jobs and events that you have to monitor. Using machine learning again, Commvault lets you focus only on those events or job failures that need human attention while allowing the rest to self-heal. Overall, HyperScale and Command Center together makes it very easy for you to manage. HyperScale technology can be deployed in two ways: as a Commvault branded appliance or as a reference architecture design. Appliances are pre-designed, they're factory integrated, they come with the software preloaded, so it makes the deployments even faster to complete. Appliances are also easy to procure and manage, as Commvault provides both the hardware and software support for the software and the parts replacement services as well. It is intended for organizations looking for an all-in-one, one-vendor solution. Reference architecture is offered as a software-only solution where you can deploy the HyperScale software on pre-validated design configurations. Commvault supports wide variety of hardware vendors, so you have the flexibility to choose hardware vendor of your choice. So overall, it is designed for organizations who need flexibility with the hardware platform and the various server configurations that are made possible by those vendors. Reference architecture option is currently not available with HyperScale X, but it is expected to be released very soon, later this year. While appliances and reference architecture come up with unique advantages, there is no real preference between either of the technologies. Depending on your situation, you could deploy appliances or reference architecture. The technology that powers both the solutions is the same.
Just to complement what Pavan is saying there, our salespeople also do not have a financial incentive to push one solution over the other. So we are truly hardware agnostic. We have the integrated appliance for those that want it. As he mentioned, in larger environments, the reference design may be better suited, but we are not trying to push one over the other. We're interested in the software piece, and underlying hardware, whatever the customer prefers is fine with us.
Yep, thanks for the clarification, Greg. Let's take a look at the new HyperScale X appliance models. Like the previous generation appliances, HyperScale X appliances also come in two flavors. We have the smaller 12-drive 2300 appliance, which replaces current 1300. It supports drive size of 4 to 14 terabyte. The 2300 nodes, they come with a 1U rack space form factor. Now going to the 4300, these are 2U node form factor nodes, supports 8 and 14 terabyte drives. The 4300 model replaces the current 3300 model. Both these solutions are to be deployed with a minimum of 3 nodes within a cluster, So using the drive sizes that are displayed here, the usable capacities supported are shown below. With the 4 terabyte model, you could start with as low as 25 terabyte. And with the 14 terabyte for 4300 model, you could go up to 264 terabyte. Now, these usable capacities are for a 3-node configuration. You could continue to add more and more 3-node appliances or even single-node appliances and continue to build the cluster up to multi-petabyte scale within one storage port. HyperScale X Appliances, as I stated earlier, are Commvault branded appliances providing single vendor experience to end users. This experience is made possible through two key technology and channel partners. Arrow Global Services is a channel partner who integrates with the Commvault disti by taking and fulfilling the appliance orders and shipping out the appliances to customers located worldwide. They also provide rack and stack services once appliances are shipped to the customer. HyperScale X appliances are built on the Supermicro server platform. By working with Supermicro, Commvault provides top-notch support for hardware and the parts replacement services. Next business day parts replacement is supported for various countries worldwide. And for those customers needing parts replacement SLA under 4 hours, we do offer a gold support service as an add-on. HyperScale offers deployment and licensing flexibility one needs for protecting wide variety of workloads that Commvault supports. Start with choosing the desired deployment model for HyperScale, a turnkey appliance or HyperScale software and a reference design. As we stated earlier, pick the best option depending on your needs. Then select appropriate data management software options. Backup and recovery for data protection needs across various workloads, or you could choose disaster recovery to ensure business continuity through fast and reliable application, or you could use Commvault Complete Data Protection, which is a bundle of above both solutions. HyperScale is compatible with all three options. Then proceed to pick a licensing option to suit your workloads. You could license the software based on front-end capacity for servers or pilots, or you could license based on instances for VMs. Unlike the previous solution, which kind of restricted users into backend terabyte licensing model, we listened to our customers and partners and thereby allowed greater flexibility in licensing the overall solution. If you are an existing HyperScale customer, you might be wondering how release of HyperScale X affects existing installs. We will now discuss the compatibility and transition between existing HyperScale appliances and HyperScale X. First, there is no in-place upgrade option available. If you have existing HyperScale solution deployed, you cannot do an in-place upgrade to HyperScale X. This is primarily due to the transition to a Hedvig scale-out storage from the current cluster file system. Next, existing HyperScale appliances and the new HyperScale X solution can coexist within the same console. You can use the same command center. The user experience for managing both the deployments is the same. You could operate, manage, as well as install updates and upgrade both solutions, both residing side by side within the same console. However, you cannot use HyperScale X appliances to expand an existing storage pool deployed using previous generation of HyperScale. However, we are trying to work towards an enhancement in the future to allow this compatibility. Finally, if you're looking to migrate from existing HyperScale to a HyperScale X solution, it is allowed. With the help of a easy-to-use migration tool, you can transition from current HyperScale technology to HyperScale X. This tool is going to migrate all the data and config from the old appliance to the new without creating any disruption to the current environment. Summarizing the discussion so far, HyperScale is the perfect vehicle for modernizing your data protection infrastructure to bring cloud-like economies and benefits to on-prem. It provides a simple and flexible data protection for all workloads, including containers, virtual, and databases. It provides optimized scalability, allowing you to start with as low as a 25 terabyte and going to multiple petabyte by adding one node at a time or 3 nodes at a time, depending on your requirements. It also offers integrated security with built-in ransomware protection. And it's a more resilient platform, allowing the solution to sustain concurrent drive and node failures and also handle subsequent failures with even more resilience. Thank you for your time and watching this HyperScale X presentation today. Please reach out to us if you have any additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you.